chosen by alien warrior queens. One human holds the strongest DNA in the galaxy. Ethan Cole was an ordinary man. He lived in a small town, worked at a repair shop, and liked to watch the night sky when he could not sleep. But on one cold evening, everything changed. It started with a strange light. It was not a star, and it was not a plane. It moved too fast, then stopped in the sky, as if it was watching the Earth. Ethan stood outside his small house, staring at it. He felt something deep inside, a strange pull, as if the light was staring back at him. Across the world, panic began. News channels spoke about a massive object moving toward Earth. Scientists could not explain it. Governments sent fighter jets into the air, but none returned close to the object. It was simply too high, too powerful, too unknown. Within hours, a shadow fell over the planet. A giant shape covered the moonlight, an alien ship, bigger than anything humans had ever seen. It was dark silver, with glowing patterns running across its surface like rivers of light. People everywhere stopped to look up. Then, the message came. It did not come through radio or television. It came inside people's minds. Every human on Earth heard the same deep, echoing voice. We seek the human with the strongest DNA. Step forward, and you will be taken to the stars. No one understood what it meant. Why DNA? Why only one human? Was it a trick? A trap? Some thought it was a joke. Others prepared for war. But governments, desperate for answers, began testing millions of people. They searched day and night for whoever this mysterious alien call was meant for. Ethan did not think it had anything to do with him. He was just a small-town man with no great achievements. But one morning, a black car stopped in front of his house. Two serious-looking men stepped out, wearing dark suits. Without smiling, they handed him a paper with only 4 words. You have been chosen. Before he could speak, they guided him into the car. The drive was silent, except for the soft hum of the engine. Ethan asked where they were going, but the men gave no answer. They only said, "It is time." Hours later, they arrived at a secret military airbase. Soldiers stood at attention. Scientists in white coats whispered to each other while checking glowing screens. In the middle of the base stood a large, circular platform made of black metal. It was not human technology. It looked alive, its surface moving like liquid. One of the scientists stepped forward. She looked at Ethan with both excitement and fear. You match the alien signal perfectly. Your DNA is different, stronger. They want you, she said, her voice shaking. Before Ethan could protest, the platform began to glow. A column of golden light rose from it, stretching up into the clouds. It hummed like a deep drumbeat, and the air grew warm. Soldiers backed away as the light wrapped around Ethan. He felt his body lift, his feet leaving the ground. He wanted to scream, but no sound came out. In seconds, the base, the soldiers, and the world below vanished. He was moving upward. No, not moving, but being pulled through the golden light into darkness. Then, light again. Ethan landed on a smooth floor. The air smelled different, clean but strange, like metal and flowers. He looked around. He was in a massive hall, its walls covered in symbols that glowed softly. Tall pillars stretched high above him, and between them stood figures. They were unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Tall, strong, and beautiful in a way that felt dangerous. Their armor shone like polished steel, and their eyes burned with the color of stars. These were not ordinary aliens. These were warriors. And from the way they stood, proud and unafraid, they were leaders. One stepped forward. She was taller than the rest, her armor darker, her crown made of sharp silver points. Her voice was smooth but powerful. Welcome, human. I am Queen Seralia of Valoria. You have been chosen because your blood holds the strongest genes in the galaxy. Ethan tried to speak, but his mouth was dry. Strongest genes. What did that even mean? Why him? The queen studied him with calm eyes, as if she could see through his skin. You will learn more soon. But first, you must decide if you are brave enough to stand among us, she said. Before Ethan could answer, the great doors behind the queen opened. A deep horn sounded, and dozens more warrior women entered, their armor glowing. Some looked at him with curiosity, others with suspicion. Ethan's heart raced. He did not know if he had just been saved, or if he had been taken as a prisoner to a place he might never leave. Somewhere far away, a drumbeat echoed. The hall grew darker, the air heavier, and Ethan realized something important. Whatever was happening was far bigger than him, and it had only just begun. The hall was so large that Ethan felt small. like a single grain of sand in an endless desert. The light from the glowing walls reflected off the alien armor, making the queens look like living statues of silver and gold. Ethan's eyes darted from one face to another, but they were all unreadable, calm, powerful, and watching him as if they were measuring his worth without a single word. Queen Sir took a step closer. Her armor clinked softly, and her voice echoed in the air. "You are aboard the royal flagship of Valoria, the heart of the throne," she said. "No human has stood here before. No man from your world has seen the Valorian queens and lived to tell the tale." Ethan swallowed hard. Her words were not meant as a threat, but they carried weight. These women were not like any leaders he had imagined. They were warriors first, rulers second. Every movement they made was controlled, confident. He noticed something else. Every queen carried a weapon. Some had long spears that glowed faintly, others swords with jagged energy edges. They did not put them down, even as they spoke. "Why, me?" Ethan finally asked, his voice low but steady. "Your DNA carries traits we have searched for over centuries," Sorelia replied. "Strength, resistance, adaptability, survival itself is written into your blood. Our people need this." Ethan blinked. Need for what? He had too many questions, but before he could speak, another queen stepped forward. This one was younger, with hair like dark fire and eyes of deep green. Her armor was lighter, but her presence was sharp. "You speak as if this human is already worthy, Sorelia," she said coldly. "But what proof do we have that he is more than a lucky birth?" A low murmur moved through the hall. Ethan could tell not all of them agreed on his value. Sorelia did not react with anger. She only looked at Ethan, as if waiting for him to answer the challenge himself. "I don't know why you chose me," Ethan said, meeting the green-eyed queen's stare, "but I've survived everything life has thrown at me so far. If you want proof, test me." The hall went quiet. Then, slowly, some queens smiled, not kindly, but with the approval warriors give when they see courage. "Very well," Sorelia said. "You will face the trials of Valoria, strength, intelligence, courage. Pass them, and you will stand among us as one chosen by fate. Fail, and you will be returned to your world in shame." The green-eyed queen's lips curved into a thin smile. "Or not returned at all," she added softly. Ethan didn't flinch, but inside, he felt a twist of fear. Two guards stepped forward, their armor marked with symbols Ethan didn't understand. They motioned for him to follow. The group moved through wide corridors, each lined with massive banners showing scenes of battle. The Valorians had fought many wars against strange alien creatures, against armies with ships larger than cities. The walls hummed with energy. Every surface seemed alive, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. This ship was not just metal and wires. It felt as if it was a living thing. They stopped at a tall set of doors carved with symbols. One of the guards touched the wall, and the doors slid open without a sound. Inside was a circular chamber lit by a soft blue glow. At the center stood a platform surrounded by hovering crystal-like shapes. "This is the hall of trials," a guard said. "Few enter. Fewer leave with honor." Ethan stepped inside. The air here felt heavier, as if it was pressing on his skin. He could hear his own heartbeat louder than normal. From the shadows above, more queens appeared, standing on balconies that circled the chamber. They were here to watch, to judge. The green-eyed queen was among them, leaning forward with a predator's interest. Soralia's voice filled the chamber. "The first trial will test your body. You will face the beasts of Korak. They have ended warriors stronger than you." A section of the wall slid open, revealing a dark tunnel. From the blackness came a sound, a deep growl that made Ethan's skin prickle. Two glowing eyes appeared, in the dark, moving closer. Then the creature stepped out, its body low and muscular, covered in dark fur that shimmered like metal, claws long and curved like knives. The crowd above grew silent. The beast sniffed the air, then fixed its gaze on Ethan. It crouched low, and then it charged. Ethan's body reacted before his mind could think. He rolled to the side, barely avoiding the swipe of its claws. The floor shook with the impact. He grabbed a metal staff lying on the ground, perhaps left for him on purpose, and faced the creature again. It circled him, growling low, testing him the way a predator tests prey. Above, the queens watched without a word, their eyes sharp. Ethan tightened his grip. He knew one thing. He could not let fear control him. The beast leaped again, faster this time. Ethan sidestepped, jabbing the staff at its ribs. The strike made it roar, but it did not fall. The blue glow of the Hall of Trials dimmed. The beast of Korak retreated into the shadows, and the doors sealed behind it. Ethan stood in the center, breathing hard. his hands still tight around the metal staff. He looked up at the balconies, where the queens watched from above. Queen Cerelia's voice filled the air. The first trial is complete. The human has shown strength of body. She paused, her eyes sharp as steel. Now we test the strength of the mind. The green-eyed queen leaned over the railing, her tone sharp like a blade. Let us see if the human's brain is worth the trouble. Ethan didn't reply. He wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing him nervous. But inside, he wondered, how do you prepare for a test when you don't even know the rules? 2 guards descended from the balcony, their armor whispering against the stone floor. They guided Ethan to a second chamber, this one smaller but stranger. The walls were made of glass-like material, and behind them swirled streams of glowing shapes, twisting symbols, and flowing patterns of light. At the center of the room was a pedestal. On it rested a strange cube. It was black, but not solid. Its surface moved like rippling water. Cerelia spoke again. This is the star key. It is locked in a puzzle older than your world's oldest empires. To open it, you must align its patterns to reveal the map within. Without the map, our people are lost. Ethan stepped closer. The cube shifted when he touched it, each side showing moving patterns, spirals, lines, stars, and strange runes. It reminded him of a Rubik's cube, but alive. The green-eyed queen crossed her arms. You have 1 turn of the moons to solve it. Fail, and the chamber will seal forever. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You mean I'll be locked in here? The queen smiled faintly. If you were lucky. He ignored her and focused on the cube. At first, it seemed impossible. Every move made the patterns more chaotic. But then he noticed something. Certain symbols repeated. A spiral, a triangle, and a cluster of 3 stars appeared more than the others. When he aligned them, a faint hum came from the cube. It wasn't random. It was a sequence. Time passed, though Ethan had no idea how long. The chamber felt colder now, as if the walls themselves were watching him. He tried another alignment. Wrong. The cube flashed red, and the hum stopped. Above, the queens whispered, among themselves in their language. He knew they were doubting him. He didn't care. Doubt was something he had lived with all his life. He focused again. He remembered the scientists on Earth, saying his DNA was different, stronger, more adaptable. Maybe his mind was too. He slowed down, looking for repeating shapes that matched. Across 3 sides instead of 2, it clicked. The patterns began to lock into place. Each movement smoother than the last. The cube's hum grew louder, and the black surface began to glow. Finally, with a soft chime, the last pattern slid into place. The cube split open, revealing a small holographic map. Stars and planets floated above it in a shimmering web. Gasps came from above. The green queen's smile faded. Cerelia's voice was calm, but there was pride in her tone. The human passes the second trial. Ethan allowed himself 1 deep breath of relief, but Cerelia's next words made his stomach tighten. Now comes the final test. Courage. The guards led Ethan out of the puzzle chamber into a narrow corridor that sloped downward. The air grew warmer, heavier. They entered a wide arena, with walls of dark stone and glowing runes. The ground was cracked, and the smell of burnt metal filled the air. Cerelia stood above in a high seat, her voice echoing. Courage is not just facing danger, it is protecting others when all hope is lost. From the far gate, another queen entered, tall, silver-haired, her armor black as night. Ethan saw something strange. The gate behind her did not close. Instead, a huge shadow moved inside. It then, without warning, a massive spiked wall dropped from above, falling toward the silver-haired queen. It happened fast, too fast for anyone to react except Ethan. He didn't think. He ran, every muscle burning. The spiked wall was seconds from crushing her. Ethan dived forward, slamming into the queen and rolling them both to safety. The wall crashed into the ground with a deafening boom, sending sparks into the air. The silver-haired queen stared at him, her face unreadable. Above, the balconies erupted in shouts, some of approval, some of shock. The green-eyed queen gripped the railing so tightly, her knuckles turned white. Cerelia rose, her voice carrying across the arena. The human passes the third trial. Ethan stood, breathing hard. He didn't care about the applause. All he cared about was that he had done the right thing, even if it had meant risking his life. He looked up at Cerelia, but her expression was not relief. It was something else, something darker. As the guards led him away, he heard her murmur to another queen. He has the courage we need, but the danger he will face is greater than he knows. The trials were over. Ethan had passed them all, but the air on the royal flagship felt heavier now. It was not the same weight he felt during the tests. This was different. This was the weight of eyes watching him from the shadows. The Valorian queens had returned to their private chambers. Ethan had been given a small room of his own. Smooth walls of pale metal, a bed that floated slightly above the floor, and a single window, showing the stars outside. It should have felt like a reward, but it didn't. The silence pressed against him. He lay on the bed, staring at the unfamiliar constellations beyond the glass. He had survived the beast, solved the puzzle, saved a queen from certain death, and yet, something told him he was not safe. The green-eyed queen's face flashed in his mind, the way her smile vanished when he succeeded, the way her hands gripped the railing when the others applauded him. Her name was General Kira. She was not just a queen, she was the commander of the Valorian war fleets. Her voice carried weight equal to Cerelia's in council, and if Kyra wanted him gone, it would happen. That night, while the ship's corridors were quiet, Ethan heard something, faint voices outside his door. The walls carried sound strangely, making whispers sharper. He moved silently toward the corner, and pressed his ear to the cold metal. The human cannot be trusted, one voice said. Cerelia sees value in him, but she forgets the old prophecies. Another replied, if he stays, he will bring ruin. Kyra says the sooner he disappears, the better. Ethan stepped back from the wall, his heart pounding. He had no proof, no allies. If Kyra was truly plotting against him, the others might believe her over him. He needed to be careful. The next day Cerelia summoned him to the Great Hall. Kyra stood beside her, armored as always, her expression cold. The trials proved your worth, Cerelia said. But before you can take your place among us, you must join our warriors in the training grounds. Kyra's lips curved in a thin smile. It is only fair he learned the ways of battle from the best. Ethan knew this was not a gift, it was another test. The training grounds were unlike anything on Earth, a massive dome filled with shifting terrain, from desert heat to freezing storms. Dozens of Valorian warriors trained there, their movements precise and deadly. Kyra herself led the session. She paired Ethan against warriors far stronger and faster than him. They came at him with blinding speed, their strikes heavy. At first, he was knocked down again and again, but each time he got up, each time he learned where their strikes came from, how they telegraphed their moves, how to use his smaller size to slip past them. By the end, sweat poured down his face, but he was still standing. Kyra approached, her green eyes sharp. Not bad for someone with soft hands, she said. Her tone made it sound less like a compliment and more like a warning. That night, the whispers returned. But this time, Ethan followed them. He moved through dim corridors, staying close to the walls. The voices led him to a locked chamber near the ship's lower decks. From a shadowed alcove, he peered inside. Kyra stood with 3 other warriors. On the table before them was a small device, sleek, black, with red symbols pulsing faintly. Even from a distance, Ethan felt the danger coming off it. This will ensure he does not leave the next mission alive, Kyra said. One of the warriors frowned. If Cerelia finds out, she will not. Kyra cut in. The human will fall. And we will say it was the enemy's doing. Ethan stepped back, careful not to make a sound. His mind raced. He had no idea what the device did, but he knew it meant trouble. If Kyra was willing to kill him in secret, then her hatred ran deeper than pride or politics. The next morning, Cerelia announced their next mission. We have detected hostile forces near the asteroid belt of Dravos. Ethan will join our team as we investigate. Ethan caught Kyra's glance across the hall, her calm, almost amused expression. He understood now. This was the moment she had been planning. Whatever waited for them in the asteroid belt, it would not just be hostile aliens, it would be Kyra's trap. But Ethan had no choice. If he refused, he would look weak, and the other queens might agree with Kyra that he didn't belong. If he went, he would walk straight into danger. Either way, he had to think ahead. That night, as the flagship moved through the endless dark, Ethan sat by his window again. The stars seemed closer out here. Somewhere among them was the truth. Why the Valorians had really chosen him, and why Kyra feared him so much. He knew one thing for certain. Tomorrow, in the asteroid belt, he would have to be ready for more than just an enemy fleet, because the most dangerous foe might be standing right beside him. The royal flagship, cut through the cold emptiness of space. Ahead lay the asteroid belt of Dravos, a maze of spinning rock and ice, hiding dangers in its shadows. Ethan stood on the lower deck with a squad of Valorian warriors, fastening the armor they had given him. It was lighter than theirs, but the metal felt alive under his hands, as if it was adjusting to him. Queen Seralia walked the deck with calm authority. Beside her, General Kyra moved like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. Ethan felt her eyes on him more than once. She didn't have to say anything. He already knew this mission was her chance to get rid of him. Listen well, Seralia told the warriors. Our scouts have detected movement in the belt. Could be pirates. Could be something worse. We investigate, we defend, and we return. The ship slowed as they entered the asteroid field. Massive chunks of rock tumbled silently through the void, some large enough to swallow cities. The Valorian pilot weaved the ship between them with skill, but Ethan could feel the tension in the air. Everyone was ready for a fight. Suddenly, the alarm rang out, sharp and urgent. From the right flank, a swarm of small black ships darted out from behind the asteroids. Their design was jagged, almost insect-like, with glowing red eyes at the front. Zereth raiders, one warrior shouted. The queens didn't hesitate. Battle stations. Kyra barked. The warriors moved with perfect coordination, launching small attack craft from the flagship's side bays. Ethan found himself pulled into one of the craft with two Valorian pilots. The moment they launched, the silence of space was shattered by bursts of laser fire. The Zereth ships moved fast, weaving between the rocks. Ethan manned a turret at the back, returning fire when they came too close. One exploded in a flash of orange light, but for every one they destroyed, two more appeared. Then it happened. An asteroid ahead suddenly glowed red along deep cracks in its surface. Ethan's instincts screamed danger. That's not a rock. He shouted into the cum. Too late, the asteroid split apart, revealing a massive Zereth war machine hidden inside. It fired a beam of red energy directly toward the flagship. The blast hit the shields, making the great vessel shudder. Inside the cockpit, alarms wailed. Shields down to 40%. Ethan's eyes darted to the panel in front of him. And there it was. The same sleek black device he had seen in Kira's secret meeting was attached under the console. The readout beside it showed a signal feeding coordinates directly to the Zereth war machine. It wasn't a coincidence. This was Kyra's trap. The flagship's location is being fed to them. Ethan yelled into the cum, but there was no time to argue. If the war machine fired again, the shields wouldn't hold. Thinking fast, Ethan ripped the device from the console, sparks flying across his hands. The pilots looked at him in shock. Cover me, he shouted. He grabbed a magnetic tether, opened the hatch, and stepped out into the freezing blackness of space. The tether pulled tight as he drifted toward the war machine. Zereth fighters zipped past, their weapons firing streams of red light. Around him, Ethan ignored them. He focused only on the glowing core at the center of the massive machine. It was pulsing with the same red light as the device in his hand. With one final push, he slammed the device into the core. For a second, nothing happened. Then the machine shuddered violently, the light inside flickering. Ethan, get out of there. Seralia's voice rang through the cum. He hit the release on the tether, letting the pull of a nearby asteroid drag him clear, just as the war machine exploded in a silent flash. The Zereth ships broke formation, scattering into the belt. The Valorian warriors regrouped, guiding their crafts back to the flagship. When Ethan stepped back inside, the hull fell silent. Even Kyra couldn't hide the fact that without him, the flagship would have been destroyed. Seralia approached. You acted without orders, she said, her voice neutral. Ethan met her gaze. If I had waited for orders, we'd all be dead. For a moment, the hull was still. Then Seralia gave the smallest nod. This is why you were chosen, she said quietly. The other warriors pounded their fists against their armor in respect. Kyra said nothing, but the tightness in her jaw told Ethan she was not finished with him. She had failed to kill him, but that only meant she would try again. Later, in the strategy chamber, Seralia showed Ethan a hologram of the galaxy. The red light of the Zereth spread across star systems like a growing infection. They are not just raiders, Seralia said. They are preparing for war. And your DNA holds the key to stopping them. Ethan frowned. How? Seralia looked at him, her expression heavy with truth. Because you carry what they fear most. The one thing that can survive their weapon. Ethan realized then. This wasn't just about him proving himself to the Valorians anymore. It was about the survival of entire worlds. The war table in the strategy chamber glowed with shifting stars. Each point of light marked a system under Valorian watch. Some burned red, taken by the Zereth. Others blinked yellow, in danger. Only a few remained blue, untouched. Ethan stood beside Queen Seralia, staring at the spreading red across the map. This isn't a war they've just started, he said quietly. No. Soralia replied, her voice low. The Zereth had been preparing for centuries. Slowly, patiently, they take worlds in silence. Before anyone can unite against them, she tapped one of the red systems, and a projection appeared. Images of dead cities, skies filled with black clouds, rivers turned to sludge. Their greatest weapon is not their fleet, she continued. It is a living plague. It destroys every species it touches. Except one. Ethan's brow furrowed. Humans, Soralia nodded. Specifically, you. We tested your cells. You are immune, completely. The plague dies in your blood. Asterisk. Ethan stepped back, his mind spinning. So you brought me here because you want, what? To make a cure. Not just a cure, Soralia said. A shield. Your genetic code could protect entire planets. If we can reproduce it. The weight of her words sank in. This wasn't just about him surviving the trials. This was about turning him into a weapon, or worse, a resource. He wasn't sure which felt heavier. Before Ethan could reply, the chamber doors slid open. General Kyra entered, her armor still marked from the battle in the asteroid belt. Her green eyes swept over Ethan with controlled disdain. The Council wants a decision, she said to Soralia. The Zereth have taken 3 more colonies in the Outer Rim. We can strike back now, or we can keep hiding behind words. Soralia's gaze didn't waver. If we attack without preparation, we risk losing everything. Kyra's voice sharpened. If we wait, we lose anyway. Asterisk. The tension between them was like 2 blades pressed together. Ethan could feel the air tighten. But then Kyra's tone shifted calm, almost to calm. Perhaps the human can decide, she said. If he is as valuable as you say, shouldn't he choose how to use his gift? Asterisk. Sir looked at Ethan, searching his face. It wasn't a trick question, but it felt like a trap. I think, Ethan said slowly, we should hit them, but smart. If we know where their plague comes from, we can strike there instead of fighting their whole fleet. For a moment, Kyra studied him, then gave a thin smile. Then perhaps we should show you the source, she said. Her tone made the words sound like an invitation and a threat at the same time. Hours later, Ethan stood in the hangar bay. Kyra had taken command of a smaller vessel for a scouting mission. Soralia had reluctantly agreed, warning Ethan in a low voice, trust carefully, and keep your eyes open. The ship left the flagship and entered deep space. Kyra stood at the front, her posture straight and unyielding. The source of the plague is in the ruins of Narios, she said, an ancient world that Zereth destroyed long before your people learned to walk upright. When they arrived, the planet looked dead. Its surface was cracked like dry earth, glowing with faint red veins of light. Black clouds churned above, and even from orbit, Ethan could feel the wrongness in the air. The ship descended, landing among towering ruins. Ethan followed Kyra and her warriors through streets of broken stone and rusting alien machines. Everything smelled faintly of ash and rot. They reached a deep chasm, its edges lined with strange symbols. At the bottom, pools of dark liquid bubbled slowly. This is where the plague lives, Kyra said, her voice carrying a strange reverence. It sleeps here, waiting for the Zereth to carry it to new worlds. Ethan stared at the bubbling liquid. It was alive. He could feel it moving, pulsing, almost like it was aware of him. And then he noticed Kyra's warriors were stepping back, leaving him standing alone at the chasm's edge. Why am I the only one here? He asked. Kyra's smile was cold. Because the Zereth are already here. Shapes emerged from the shadows beyond the chasm. Tall, insect-like beings with sharp, jointed limbs and glowing red eyes. Ethan's breath caught. The Zereth leader stepped forward, its voice like a hiss of steam. The human is here, as promised. Ethan turned to Kyra, realization striking like a blade. You made a deal with them. I made a deal to save my people, Kyra replied. You are one man. Your blood will protect Valoria, even if you are gone. The Zereth moved closer, surrounding him. Ethan's mind raced, the chasm behind him, enemies in front, no weapon in his hands. Kyra turned away, not even watching. Take him, she said. The leader's claws reached for him, and Ethan knew this was no longer about trials or proving himself. This was survival, and if he didn't escape now, the galaxy's last defense against the plague would die here, in the ruins of a dead world. Asterisk. The chasm boiled beneath Ethan's feet. The plague's dark liquid pulsed, sending up thin streams of red mist. The Zereth leader loomed before him, claws spread wide. Its glowing eyes locked on him like a predator. Hold still, human, the creature hissed. Your blood will flow, and our victory will begin. Ethan stepped back, feeling the edge of the chasm crumble under his boots. One wrong move, and he'd fall into the bubbling pit below. Kyra stood several meters away, her arms crossed, her green eyes cold. She didn't even draw her weapon. "Do not fight them," she said sharply. "It will be quick." Ethan forced himself to breathe slowly. If he panicked, he was dead. The Zirith were fast, but their size worked against them in tight spaces, and the narrow ledge gave him an idea. As the leader reached for him, Ethan ducked low, sweeping his leg toward the creature's knees. It staggered, letting out a sharp hiss. Ethan grabbed a loose chunk of stone from the ground and hurled it at the nearest warrior. The rock struck the side of its head. Buying him seconds, he turned and ran along the ledge. The Zirath followed, their claws scraping the stone like knives. The path twisted upward, leading toward a broken tower, half buried in the ruins. Ethan sprinted inside, his boots pounding on the cracked floor. The tower's walls were lined with ancient machinery, most of it long dead, but some panels still glowed faintly. He tapped one, and it flickered to life, displaying alien symbols. He didn't know their language, but one flashing icon looked familiar, a warning symbol. The Zirith's hissing grew louder. They were coming in from below, climbing the tower walls. Ethan's eyes darted to a large power coil near the wall, its surface humming with faint energy. It reminded him of the war machine's core in the asteroid belt. He grabbed a broken metal pipe from the ground and jammed it into the coil. Sparks burst out, and the hum grew into a high-pitched whine. The tower's old defense system woke, sending out a pulse of blinding light. The Zirath screeched, covering their eyes as the energy waves slammed into them. Several lost their grip and fell into the chasm below, their screams fading into the darkness. Ethan didn't wait. He ran out the far side of the tower, only to find Kyra waiting. Her sword was drawn, its blade glowing with green energy. "You should have died in the chasm," she said, her voice calm, but full of venom. Ethan's chest heaved with breath. "You betrayed your own people." Kyra's eyes narrowed. "I saved them. Your blood will still be taken. But now, without Soralia controlling its use." She lunged, her strikes fast and precise. Ethan dodged the first, barely deflected the second, with the pipe still in his hand. The third strike came low, slicing the pipe in half. Kyra smiled, certain she had him. But Ethan wasn't aiming to win by strength. He stepped back, toward the tower's damaged wall, letting her come closer. At the last second, he kicked the weakened stone, sending it collapsing under her feet. Kyra fell hard, her sword clattering away. Before she could recover, Ethan grabbed the weapon, its weight almost too much for him. "This ends now," he said. Kyra froze, then smirked. "You won't kill me. It's not in you." Ethan's grip tightened. "No, but I can make sure you face your own queens." A roar echoed through the ruins. Valorian gunships descended from the clouds above. Sorelia's voice boomed from the cum. "Ethan, stand clear." Bright beams of light struck the ground around the remaining Zereth, cutting them down. Warriors poured out of the gunships, surrounding Kyra and forcing her to her knees. Her glare never left Ethan. Sorelia approached, her eyes hard. "Kyra of Valoria, you stand accused of treason and alliance with the Zirath." The green-eyed queen didn't speak. She only glanced once more at Ethan before being taken away. When the battle was over, Sorelia turned to Ethan. "You saved more than yourself today," she said. "The source of the plague is weakened, and we have captured the one who would have doomed us." Ethan looked out over the ruins, the red veins in the ground already dimming. "What happens now?" he asked. Sorelia's voice softened. "Now, you choose. You can return to Earth and live your life in peace. Or stay, and stand with us in the war to come." He thought about home, about the quiet nights, the safety, the life he had before. But then he thought about the plague, the Zirith, and the faces of the warriors who had fought beside him. He couldn't walk away. "I stay," he said simply. Sorelia gave a single nod. "Then from this day, you are Ethan Cole, champion of Valoria." The warriors struck their fists against their armor in unison, their voices echoing through the ruins. Ethan stood among them, no longer just the man who had been chosen, but the man who had chosen his place in the stars. And somewhere deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning.